I'm not sure if you have seen this before. If I may have to call this slide, this is basically called as Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture. Okay, so it's a Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture, and it might look very, very complex for you. I do have a news flash. We all know that cybersecurity is complex, right? So what I'm going to do is for next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to break the slides into pieces. Probably I would help you simplify this slide so that you can understand better. And then you can think about how these solutions can actually help you in your environment and what should be your security strategy and so on. Okay, so in case if you are interested to download this slide, you could visit aka.ms/mcra. Like I said, MCRA is Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture, which you can see it here. When you go to this particular link, you can download the deck which I'm presenting now, and we have a lot of good video recordings available, which have actually recorded by our engineering team itself, who actually developed these solutions. So you could actually hear from them about how the solution works. They speak at level 300, level 400, so it's deep technical. So you could understand even much better about all these solutions, how it comes together, and then how it helps you protect your environment. Now, let's dig into this slide. Probably you might, looking at this, you might understand like this is purely an on-prem environment, right? And this is how our network used to be like probably 15-20 years ago. And we had a very, very strong network perimeter, and we had intranet, extranet, and within the extranet, a lot of customers had huge investments on security, right? Having next-gen firewalls, having proxy servers, intrusion prevention, intrusion detection kind of solutions in place. And it was tightly controlled because everything is inside a network, and you could, your security team could easily, decide who should come in, who should go out, and what port should be enabled, and so on. So this is how it used to be. But then as we moved along, things changed, right? And BYOD devices, bring your own devices kind of concept evolved, and a lot of customers like you started embracing them. And they started allowing these devices to access the corporate resources, applications, data, and also even coming inside a network and connecting to your Wi-Fi's, your networks, and so on, right? Now, we all very familiar with Security Operations Center, right? And this is kind of used to be a heavyweights play where big, large enterprise customers were able to afford the SOC center and gain or have that visibility about their environment, right? This used to be, only big customers because it requires a lot of infrastructure. It requires a lot of investments in order to create a SOC and then manage and operate. So small customers may not be able to afford that kind of an environment, and it also required a specialized team, security analyst team, in order to manage them and then start helping you. Just to move on, as we become more mobile as employees, they started using the laptops, mobile devices, and then they started working on the move, right? I mean, we all know, like today, because of pandemic situation, we all working from home, so we generally use our laptops and then we carry them wherever we move, and then we can still log into internet and then log into our corporate applications and so on. So when employees, workers, users became mobile, we have seen that data was started leaking from those endpoints, and that is where endpoint kind of the solutions, endpoint DLP kind of solutions evolved, and a lot of customers started, adapting endpoint DLP solutions like Symantec or McAfee. These are the known ones, right? you definitely needed a LDAP directory services to centrally manage everything. You all familiar with Microsoft Active Directory, right? So a lot of customers started using, or rather even today they are using Microsoft Active Directory as their LDAP services to manage everything centrally. And last 5-6 years, we have seen almost every single customer is actually moved onto the cloud, and they have some sort of presence on the cloud. They start with Office 365, which is being the world's largest enterprise-based SaaS application, right? So this is number one SaaS software as a service, from Microsoft. Almost every single customer today is using Office 365. Apart from that, Microsoft has a lot of other SaaS-based applications, but it's not just Microsoft, right? There are the hundreds and thousands of companies, and then they all have some sort of cloud-based applications today. G Suite, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Box, Dropbox, to name few. And customers and the employees, with or without IT's knowledge, they also started embracing, or rather started using these applications, right? So right now, almost every single customer is on cloud. And for the last 1-2 years, we are seeing a lot of OT technologies are also entering your enterprise, accessing your resources and data. Now, when you are using SaaS, OT, BYOD and all this stuff, you naturally fall under a hybrid cloud infrastructure. I mean, we call you as hybrid cloud customers, because you have SaaS, you are using some sort of cloud, you are using OT, BYOD, and so on. Now, when you are in a hybrid cloud environment, you need a vendor whom you can trust, right? So this is where Microsoft comes in. And we are very, very transparent on how we deal your environment. So if you actually go to servicetrust.microsoft.com, you can actually see how Microsoft protects or secures your data, how we protect your privacy, how we comply with all the global standards. Today, Microsoft has more than 90 plus, compliance regulatory certifications. So you can actually go to a portal called servicetrust.microsoft.com, and you can actually see all the audit reports which we go through. I mean, I just mentioned we have 90 plus certifications, right? So that means Microsoft, our data centers around the world, we have some sort of auditing going through almost every single month, and we release those reports in the Trust Center. So servicetrust.microsoft.com is the portal. When you go there, you can actually download these reports and then use it for yourself, for your auditors, right? So we are very, very transparent. All the reports are available for you over there. Then we have SDL, Security Development Lifecycle. This is where we provide you the guidance, white papers on how securely you can develop your application. So if you are developing something, you can follow the guidelines. This is how Microsoft develops our products, our applications, and so on. So you could also use the same methods, same guidance, and develop your applications more securely. Then we have Intelligent Security Graph. These are threat intel. I have a separate slide on it. I'll talk more in detail about it. Compliance Manager. Now, this is where Compliance Manager kind of solutions, help you achieve your compliance goals. We know that in Indonesia, you have your own in-country Data Privacy Act. So Compliance Manager has templates, related to Indonesia as well. So you can actually use that and then understand where you stand today to meet your compliance goals of your country, as well as industry standards like GDPR or like FINRA or HIPAA, SOC, ISO, you name it. Compliance Manager covers everything, and then High Trust is being one of them, and Quantum Security is like they have a compliance offerings based on the High Trust model, which is very, very relevant, right? So if you are looking at any kind of compliance manager kind of solutions, I would highly recommend to talk to Quantum Security, because they've been working very closely with Microsoft, and and Microsoft solutions together with compliance manager with high trust as a standard. Quantum security has a huge experience, expertise on that. So just to move on, when you are on the cloud, right? I mean, when we talk about cloud, we know that we have software as a service, we have infrastructure as a service, we have platform as a service. When it comes to infrastructure as a service, where you put up a lot of your cloud workloads onto the Azure infra or Amazon or whatever, you also need a DMZ kind of an environment, right? So if you are using Azure infrastructure as a service, and then if you have your workloads put up there, there are hundreds of virtual machines running, and if you want to float if you want to immediately, have a firewalls, next gen firewalls from Palo Alto or Checkpoint or any other vendor, you could roll them out in just 2-3 clicks by going to Azure Marketplace. Azure marketplace.microsoft.com is a portal. You can actually see all the security appliances where we have integrated them, and you can see all these firewalls there. So if you have licenses, you can spin them out in no time with just 2-3 clicks. When we talk about cloud, we have solutions like Azure Security Center, which is rebranded as Azure Defender. Okay, so that's a new name today. Azure Security Center has been rebranded as Azure Defender. And Azure Defender, Azure Security Center is a cross-platform visibility. It helps you protect your cloud workloads, and it also helps you detect threats. Be it it's on Azure or Amazon or Google, Azure Security Center, Azure Defender helps you protect your workloads and then get you the visibility. It gives you the visibility about how these virtual machines are operating. Does it have the patches up to date? Does it have a firewall service up and running? Or does it have an antivirus, anti-malware solutions up and running? Has it been contacted on a daily basis? When was the last scan happened? Has it been updated with all the definition or signature files? So it gives you a lot of these kind of visibility, and based on that, you can actually take necessary actions to ensure all your workloads are, have that baseline, the security baseline. If any virtual machines, any workloads which are not meeting the baseline, that's an immediate action which you can take it, and that kind of visibility you get it through the Azure Security Center. When we talk about Microsoft, think about it like, we have two kinds, two types of security solutions. One is completely related to Azure, anything towards Azure environment. We have Azure Security, and there are a number of solutions like this, like Azure Policies, Azure Key Vault, Azure WAF, Azure Anti-Malware, Disk Encryption, DDoS, and so on. Outside Azure Security, we also have another type of security solutions. We call it as modern work. Okay, so this is where M365 solutions comes into the picture. So either it's a modern work, which will help you, protect your users, your identities, your devices, your applications, your data, and so on. And then the Azure Security is completely related to the cloud. Okay, so we have all the solutions which are related to Azure. Now let's look into the modern work security solutions. Right now, if you look at, even though the cloud is very prominent, a lot of customers are moving onto the cloud. We have a lot of solutions on cloud itself. That's the beauty of Microsoft solutions. So a lot of these security capabilities and solutions are actually built on our platform. Now, if you look at, Microsoft has number of platforms. We own number of platforms like Windows, Office, the database, the emails, right? So what Microsoft has done is, very smartly, they have actually started building a lot of security capabilities into the solutions, into the operating system, like Windows Server or 2019 or Windows 10, for example. So if you look at Windows 10, today it is considered to be one of the highly secured desktop operating system released by Microsoft, right? And we say that because if you look at it with Windows 10, what we have done is everything is built on. Nothing is like bolt on. You don't need to install any kind of agent, even to activate an antivirus. Even an antivirus, anti-malware solution in Windows 10 Professional and Windows 10 Enterprise is built into the operating system. So that means it's a service for you. There is no agent. Because it's part of the operating system, you can actually use group policies, or you can manually turn it on, or you can use local scripts or PowerShell scripts, or you can use solutions like Intune or SCCM to activate all these services which are part of the operating system. Okay, and be it 100 devices, 5,000 or even 10,000 devices, it only takes about 2-3 policies for you to activate the service. Now, once you are done with that, you have a full-fledged antivirus, anti-malware with EDR, with ATP kind of functionalities up and running in no time. So you don't need to run a separate antivirus project to install agent on every single machine. It's just a policies for you. So that's how we simplify it, and that is one of the biggest differentiator between Microsoft to any other vendors in the market. With Microsoft, when you go, it is actually everything is built in, not bolt on. Okay, now if you have any questions, please use your chat window. Go ahead and ask your questions. Me and Sham and Chris, we will definitely help you answer them right away. Okay. We also have Defender ATP. Now, Defender ATP, again, we rebranded as Defender for Endpoint, MDE. We call it as Defender for Endpoint. Okay. Now, this is a solution which has EDR capability, endpoint detection and response. It also has threat and vulnerability management. It also has automated investigation and remediation, right? So a lot of new capabilities are the part of this particular solution. And if you look at this, it has an integration with Azure Defender or Azure Security Center. And because of this integration we bring in, it is an out-of-the-box integration. It is just a simple checkbox for you. And with this, we actually give you a threat detection capability for your Azure Defender. Okay, so the threat detection capability is actually coming from the integration from Defender ATP the solution. Now, we have a lot of other solutions like PAS, where your admins can actually use to manage, configure your environment. And then Microsoft has a full-fledged identity and access management solutions. It's very, very comprehensive. You all know Azure Active Directory, which is our cloud-based directory services. Apart from the directory services, what Microsoft has done is we have built a lot of security capabilities like Azure AD Identity Protection, which can actually help you identify all the leaked credentials, compromised accounts, impossible travel profile, anonymous IP logins, right? Anonymous login to your environment. We can actually detect all this kind of suspicious behaviors, and we can immediately block them, restrict them, notify IT security team, give you a complete visibility about what's happening, in your hybrid cloud environment, who is connecting from where, what device they use, what time they log in, what did they do after they log in. You can actually gain all this visibility no matter where your employees are working from. Then we have solutions like Azure AD PIM, Privileged Identity Manager. So this would help you manage and control all your privileged users, privileged access inside your environment. We have workflows where you can time bomb somebody to promote as a privileged user. For example, if you want to provide somebody as a security admin for 1 day activity or 2 hours activity, you can time bomb it. You can tell them like, okay, this user is promoted as a security admin or a global admin for 2 hours, and once that 2 hours is done, he would be automatically go back to his previous state or as a normal user. So there are a lot of automation capabilities as well, which you can make use of. And PIM kind of solutions will also give you a visibility about how many admins, privileged users are there inside your network, inside your environment. Normally what happens is IT team promotes somebody as a privileged user and then they forget about it, and this user carries that privilege for a very long time. And think about it, if his identity gets compromised, the hackers will also get the privileged access, right? So solutions like PIM can give you that visibility, tell you how many users carries a privileged account, privileged access, and then you can take a call. Do they really need it? Or can you time bomb it, or can you provide just-in-time access, right? So there are a lot of use case scenarios you can think through with these identity protection or PIM kind of solutions. Then MFA, multi-factor authentication. We all know that, if you have configured MFA, you can actually stop identity-based attacks almost 99.9%. So I would highly recommend, if you have not implemented MFA, start using MFA in your environment. Then Azure AD B2B, business to business or business to consumer. So if you have your vendors, your partners, where you need to collaborate and then invite them to access your resources, your applications, your data, you can use one of them, B2B or B2C, and with just one invitation using the external identities, you can invite your users, your partners, your vendors who doesn't belong to your organization, and they can use their Outlook account or a Gmail or their own organization's identity, and then they can still log into your account, but securely. You will have the visibility, and then you can also enforce a lot of policies like MFA or conditional access to keep them secure, to keep your data and resources more secure. So we have a lot of security capabilities built into B2B and B2C kind of scenarios as well. Hello for Business, innovative solution. It's a passwordless strategy for Microsoft. Almost 200,000 employees in Microsoft. We use Hello for Business. We don't type passwords to log into our machines, to our laptops. We use our biometric or fingerprint scanners or iris scanner or face recognition kind of thing, which integrates with Hello for Business and Azure Active Directory. So once it scans my face and logs in, I have actually logged into Azure Active Directory. And once I've successfully logged into Azure Active Directory with a single sign-on, whether it's 10 applications or 100 applications, I have a single identity log into. And because it's all integrated, associated, I don't need to type my password anywhere to access any applications. And if there are any suspicious activities, suspicious behaviors, solutions like conditional access or MFA will kick in, and then it will challenge the user and then stop the suspicious activities. This is where I was talking about. Conditional access is identity perimeter management. Now that the network perimeter is no longer relevant, you need some sort of perimeter management, and that is where conditional access comes into picture. So conditional access is also one of the core component for Microsoft Zero Trust strategy, right? Now we all heard about Zero Trust, right? So Microsoft uses conditional access as one of the core component to help you, have a zero trust environment, zero trust model, within your environment. Now, what we also do is, like, all the solutions, whatever we are talking about, we have a mechanism to get all the alerts and logs and get ingested back into your SOC, into your SIEM solution. Now, Microsoft, what we have done is we also have a lot of threat protection solutions like Cloud App Security for your cloud environment, Azure Security for your Azure infrastructure to protect all the cloud workloads, Defender for endpoint, or Defender ATP for your protecting all your endpoints, be it Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. We support every single platform today. Office 365 ATP to protect your email environment with all those phishing attacks, malware attacks on your users' inboxes. And then Azure ATP. Azure ATP is rebranded as Defender for Identity, which would actually monitor your entire network and then monitor your network, Active Directory traffic, and then identify all the phishing attacks and suspicious behaviors inside your network, and then it will immediately I notify or send an alert to your respective IT team to take necessary actions, right? So we have all these solutions which can actually sit inside your SOC environment and protect your cloud, to protect your cloud applications, shadow IT, or to protect your cloud workloads, endpoints, email environment, and network as well. And with Azure Sentinel, which is our next gen SIEM and SOAR solution, Chris is going to talk about more in detail. With Sentinel coming in, which is 100% cloud native, today you have an opportunity to stream all these alerts back into Sentinel, and we have out-of-the-box data connectors, which actually simplifies how you connect and collect the data back into Sentinel for correlation and threat exploration. Right, so we use Sentinel as our next-gen SIEM solutions, and with Microsoft, what we trying to help you here is, like, we call all the solutions here as extended detection and response. We call it as XDR. Now, all these alerts and logs, you can actually ingest back into the Sentinel, and you start having that unified dashboard or view of your entire organizations, be it users, identities, devices, applications, network, data, everything. You can use Sentinel for looking at your environment, and this is where quantum security also comes in. One of our best partners in the region we have, who has a lot of expertise and experience in managing your environment, pulling in all the logs and alerts, pulling in the XDR logs and alerts back into Sentinel, and then help you have that SIEM SOC kind of an environment with a lot of automation capabilities. I don't want to talk more in detail about Sentinel. I would leave Chris to talk more in detail about it. Then just to move on this particular slide, we have information protection pillar, which has a lot of solutions where it can protect your data, right? So with AIP, Azure Information Protection, which is our classification and labeling solution, it also has protection capability where once you apply a classification, label, and protection, it encrypts the data, it encrypts at the file level, and the protection stays with the file no matter where the file travels, right? Inside your organization, outside your organization, doesn't matter. The protection stays with the file, and only the authorized users will be able to access the file. Okay, so, and you can define in the custom permissions who has access to the file. Okay, so you can put in their email ID, and only those people will be able to open the file. Okay, so we have a lot of these kind of capabilities to protect your data. Then we also have Cloud App Security, which acts as a gateway between your users, your devices, and to your cloud, which will also help you with your shadow IT problems. It can actually resolve your shadow IT problem, and then give you visibility about what kind of cloud applications your employees are using inside your organization. And we have different ways of identifying that using the Cloud App Security. So we can talk more in detail about it. If you have any questions about it, talk to quantum security representatives or with Microsoft, and we'll be more than happy to discuss more in detail. Then Microsoft also has a lot of investments on Azure SQL kind of solutions, plus IoT and OT. Microsoft acquired a company recently for IoT, and with that, today we have a complete very comprehensive solutions to protect all the IoT environment. Okay, now this is at a very high level what Microsoft cybersecurity reference architecture looks like. I know I ran through a bit fast, but if you have any questions, please use your chat window and we'll be more than happy to answer them. So this is where the differentiators, right? So I talked about the built-in experience. So this is where all the solutions we have built into our products and our solutions. Every solution what we're talking about has AI and automation capabilities, and it also has an out-of-the-box integration. Now, if you go back to this particular slide, you can see that Defender ATP has an integration with Azure Security Center, which I talked about. Then it also has an integration with Intune And it also has an integration with conditional access, with cloud app security, with Azure information protection, as well as Office 365. So it's just a simple checkbox for you to build an integration and ensure all the solutions talk to each other, they exchange signals to each other, and then take necessary action with each other automatically, right? So that's a differentiator with Microsoft. So everything is built in, and you have out of the box integration. So you don't need to spend your money and effort in connecting two different APIs to give you that unified dashboard, unified reporting. With Microsoft, everything is plug and play out of the box for you. Now, this slide basically talks about the next gen SOC or SIM solutions. Right now, this is where today's environment is, where you have all these multiple solutions related to network or infrastructure or PaaS or OT or IDAM, endpoint, and so on, where you have logs, raw data, which is actually sent to your SIEM. In this case, we all know, like you had about ArcSight or QRadar or Splunk, which used to be the on-premises SIEM solutions. Now, where we differentiate from Microsoft is where, this is where, we have Azure Defender solutions, we have M365 Defender solutions, which we talked about. And together with Azure Defender and M365, we call this as XDR, Extended Detection and Response. These solutions has got a capability to do automated investigation and remediation by themselves, and then we provide deep insights, actionable alerts. So we go through the investigation, and then we'll tell you what are the actions you need to take for a particular alert or an incident, right? And then we send those things back into your SIM solution, or if you're using our next gen SIM solution like Azure Sentinel, then you basically stream all these alerts back into Azure Sentinel, which uses machine learning and AI, and it has a Yuba capabilities. So we basically help you automate a lot of stuff, and we automatically help you remediate a lot of stuff. We reduce the alert fatigue. Your security analyst can spend more time in the real alerts, in the real threats, rather than going through every single alert or incident and then doing an investigation on top of it. So I'll let Chris talk more in detail about it, but then this slide basically talks about the next gen the SOC or SIM solution. Now, when we talk about the threat intel, so this is where we have more than 200 plus cloud-based consumer and commercial services, where we are connected under one umbrella called Intelligent Security Graph. With this, today we analyze 470 billion emails on a monthly basis. We know which emails have spam content, malwares, phishing links. We feed that back into our Office 365 ATP kind of solutions, and then we stop all the spam content, malwares at the Office 365 ATP gateway itself. With Bing as a platform, we scan almost 18 million pages on a monthly basis, and then we basically identify all the phishing links, malicious websites, and we stop the users from browsing. With the Azure and Office 365 platform, we analyze almost 630 billion authentications on a monthly basis. So we know how users are connecting to Office 365 and Azure environment. Any changes, any suspicious activities or identity compromise, we can immediately detect, and we can notify your global admins and give you the report. Now, this slide is basically talking about how complicated the security market is today. But if you look at Microsoft has almost every single solution you can look here with out of the box and built-in capabilities. So you get the best platform, you get end-to-end from Microsoft. So these are the pillars what we have: IDAM, identity and access management, information protection, infrastructure security. We call now this as cloud security. Then we have threat protection, UEM, and security management. You can see all the solutions which we have under each pillar. This is what Gartner is talking about. We are the leaders in 5 different security solutions today. So with Microsoft, you not only get best of the breed solutions, but you also get best of the platform. So you have an advantage of both. With this, you get better TCO and better ROI. Now, this slide basically talks about how complex the vendors is. I mean, when you have multiple vendors for your environment, like for email, semantic email gateway for your endpoint, either CrowdStrike or FireEye, for identities, Okta for your network, CyberArk, and for your cloud, Netscope. These are different vendors. They don't talk to each other. They don't, exchange informations to each other, right? So we simplify this with our solution. So all the solutions has out of the box integration. They exchange information with each other. So if Office 365 ADP detects a malicious email attachment, it immediately sends out an information back to Defender ATP, and Defender ATP will scan your entire network automatically and ensure this attack is not coming on your endpoints through an USB or through a personal email, right? So we automatically take necessary things. We help you, improve your threat protection. We simplify the security for you. Okay. Now this slide basically talks about with Microsoft solutions today. A lot of our customers are actually replacing 40 different point solutions, be it single sign-on, MFA, data discovery or data classification, DLP kind of solutions, CASB, cloud app security, or even application control, SIMs or IoT and so on. So this is how, we are helping a lot of customers have that better TCO and ROI with our solutions. So with that, let me stop here. If you have questions, please use your chat window. Once again, I'll be around for another 20-30 minutes, so I can take up those questions for you. With that, let me hand it back to Sham and Chris.
Sham, Chris, over to you. Yeah, Chris, over to you.
All right. Appreciate it. Let me share my screen. Share my browser, actually. How's my audio and screen coming across?
I think we can hear you nice, okay. And your screen is visible. Thanks.
Great. Well, I appreciate your time, everyone. I'm going to dig into the security operations side using Sentinel and also step back and talk strategy as well. So I hope you enjoy the session, and we'll be available for any questions that you may have. Some quick context on our experience and where we come from. I'd like to show this example because it kind of hits home. But you may be familiar with the world's most famous hacker, which is Kevin Mitnick. If you were to Google search that, and you could read all about Kevin. He's got movies and books about him. He's now a white hat, or he's a gray hat since he was caught. He was the first one ever thrown in jail, federal prison for hacking. And when he got out and started being a security consultant, he was getting hacked all the time. So all the hackers wanted to go after the world's most famous hackers. So I had the pleasure of saving him. So back, call it over a decade ago, Kevin and I met, and I wound up protecting him, along with many other well-known names across the globe, with 1,400 customers across 42 different countries. I've got a lot of experience with personalities like Kevin or the Clintons, all the way to big organizations like Chubb Insurance, Expedia, FIFA, you name it. So tons of fun cyber stories and cyber forensics and all sorts of scars on my back from the past. If you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn. This is what my profile looks like, so please reach out and connect. So I'm based out of Singapore, and founded a company called Quantum, and we are very tight partners with Microsoft, and it's not just the Sentinel platform, but it's their entire cloudy approach. The cloud brought a few things that are really important to cybersecurity from our perspective. One is it brought cost advantage. Cloud compute and cloud storage are just simply a lot less expensive at cloud service providers like Microsoft Azure. And with cybersecurity, we use a lot of storage and we use a lot of compute. And so cybersecurity professionals are always under pressure from a budgetary perspective on how to reduce costs. And so we fell in love with the Sentinel platform because a couple things about it is, one is it has no licensing fees. So if you're in Indonesia or in Singapore or Malaysia or all three, you could deploy Sentinel in multiple regions and not pay for that need. You may have data sitting in Germany or sitting in the US where there's data sovereignty laws. And so you have to have your data kind of sit in those locations. And Sentinel allows that flexibility where the traditional SIEMs do not. Another thing I like is SOAR. So Sentinel is not just a SIEM that, here's my getting in the lobby. The Sentinel is not just a SIEM that collects logging information and identifies incidents, but it has a built-in SOAR. And you may not have heard of SOAR, but it's Security Orchestration Automated Response. And it's, what do you do after the incident? What happens after a ticket is created? You know, how do you respond and disable that user or shut down that server or block the NIC or move in the sandbox or any kind of automation you need to do. The SOAR is that next gen platform, and Sentinel is a combination of SIEM and SOAR, which is quite powerful. And so Quantum's approach, and we've embraced the Microsoft ecosystem and Sentinel especially, because our approach, unlike other MSSPs like you may see Symantec or Trustwave or whatever, you move all your data to their platform. They put their rules on top of it. They may or may not write playbooks for you. Over time, that evolves. And if you decide to leave that vendor, you've lost all that information. You could probably not pull your logs out, but you've certainly lost all that tuning, all that hard work. And our approach with Sentinel is just like you treat your own cloud environment. It's your platform. So you purchase Sentinel within your enterprise licensing agreement or whatever licensing agreement you have. Quantum manages that for you, manages the rules for you, builds the playbooks for you, is the SOC for you. And should you want to insource this over time, or should you want to find another partner, you retain all that effort, all your data, all the rules, all the playbooks, all that intellectual property and hard work. And that's just a different business model. That is the cloudy model. So, right on our homepage of our website, we consider that liberation, right? So you're not locked into particular vendors. We offer 4 services: XDR, vulnerability management, data protection, and risk management. We're going to focus on XDR today, which is really powered by Sentinel. If I think about the platforms from a cloudy perspective, another advantage, you guys may be going after the DevSecOps vision, where you may have a DevOps capability and you want to figure out how to integrate SecOps into your CI/CD processes, which this is the affinity loop here. And you can see with our product sets how we interject capabilities pre-release. So what do we do on the code side? How do we do it on pre-production? And then how do we manage it post-production? So with the cloud capabilities of Microsoft, you're really able to get that DevSecOps vision that everybody wants. Okay. And with that, I'll start off with Sentinel saying, how do we deploy Sentinel? You can go right into Azure, type in Sentinel in your search box at the top in the middle, and get going. But there are best practices. There are ways to deploy Sentinel that we think is best and that Microsoft also prescribes. And if you want to have multiple versions of Sentinel across, say, dev and production, or say different business units, you want your own version of Sentinel, because again, with no licensing fees, you can now think about your SIEM and SOAR capabilities across business units or geos or whatever. You want to manage those things consistently. And so Quantum, we offer our customers free source code for managing and deploying Sentinel. We're happy to share with you a YouTube video on how this works, where we just in minutes you can see how we fully deploy Sentinel with code with our best practices. So super easy to do, and we could share this YouTube video. And again, should you decide not to be a Quantum customer in the future, you get to keep all this code, right? There's no lock-in on that, right? So everything that we do is GitHub managed. So whether it's our SIEM schemas, our policies, the way we think about metadata, our different packages, all done in GitHub, all transparent, full source code available. It's a different cloudy model. Okay, I'm going to jump into Sentinel because I'm going to show you one thing and then I'm going to jump back out. But in Sentinel, there is the concept of MITRE ATT&CK, and you'll see MITRE ATT&CK here embedded into the user experience. But I want to back out and explain what MITRE is, because if you're thinking about going SIEM and SOAR and thinking about Sentinel, you really need to think about adjusting your strategy from what your strategy probably is today. Right now, most organizations are centered around defense in depth, which was developed by Cisco. And basically every single layer of defense was created in a model, and they're pitching defense in depth, which basically means buy as much hardware and or software as possible as you can afford, put it in front of your data, and hope hackers don't penetrate it. And Cisco did a great job marketing that, but of course they had a SKU for every single layer and all the depth of the defenses. But so what MITRE ATT&CK is, first off, and you can go to it, it's an organization with a lot of contributors, the best contributors in the world. So whether it's from Palo Alto, whether it's from Checkpoint, whether it's from Microsoft, FireEye, you name it, Splunk, Trustwave, kind of CrowdStrike, IBM, the best contributors in the world are sharing intelligence around what's called TTPs, which is tactics. These are tactics going across. This is the cyber kill chain from reconnaissance all the way to impact. Techniques and procedures, now called sub-techniques, and those are TTPs. And the strategic shift that I ask you to think about is moving from defense in depth, which is just buying a bunch of stuff and hoping it works, to shifting your security model to what are the threat actors actually doing to come after my data. Okay, and you don't have to guess on what they are, because all these contributors are providing all the information and the stuff that they see, okay, across the TTPs. And then the next thing you do from a strategy perspective is, okay, out of all these TTPs, I'm going to filter down what TTPs are relevant for me. So there's a way to filter. This is what's called the attack navigator, and I don't intend to go through this, but we can filter things down that are relevant for you based off of Windows or Linux, different clouds, things like that, and get down to what your TTP set is. And then the strategy is, okay, out of all those TTPs that could be up against the threat actors, how many of those TTPs can I detect? And then how many of those TTPs can I protect myself from? So you start seeing this heat map across the MITRE framework of what you can detect with your threat hunting rules and what you can protect with your technology or software investments. Okay, so it's a different strategy that I encourage you to think about. And we offer a visual mapping of that via Azure Cosmos DB, where we pulled in all the TTPs and we map them out, and then we can pull in your technology. So say you use Guardicore or Armor or whatever technology that you have, and you can see the TTP coverage that they have. And again, we can provide you with a video on kind of how this works to get to that strategy where you can talk to your senior and say, we're no longer guessing on what we need to do. We now know the TTPs that are coming after us. This is our amount of detection. This is our amount of protection. And I can tell you how this may change your life as a cybersecurity professional. It changes when you have a MITRE ATT&CK framework perspective. Your mind's going to be blown, because everything you do is going to be MITRE ATT&CK centric. For example, your penetration testing and your vulnerability testing. Right now, a lot of penetration testing, you get a pen test proposal from some company, and you sign it, and it's 25,000 to 100,000 US equivalent, and you get a big report of all the problems that you've had. Well, the 1,000 of events they could have found, most of them are sitting at this first 3 phases of the kill chain. So they're only doing penetration testing on the recon, getting your accounts, groupings, and getting your initial access. They're hardly going through the rest of the kill chain. So you'll ask your penetration vendor, hey, penetration vendor, I want to test across all of the parts of the kill chain and make sure that I can A, detect the things that you're doing, and B, I can validate that my protection is actually working. And so that's like an example where the MITRE ATT&CK framework, embracing that, changes your life as a security professional, okay? And you're no longer guessing. And again, you're aligning with the top security intelligence organizations out there. And it's all free, right? You just have to leverage it properly. And I was really proud of Azure when, or Microsoft Sentinel, when they built in MITRE ATT&CK at everything they do. Really, really, really important. So that was just another reason why. I'll walk through where this is instantiated in different parts of the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to show you Sentinel now. And hopefully this is coming across large enough. If you need me to, last time I got kind of zoomed in a little bit, but if you want me to zoom in more, I can. This is not intended to read per se, but first off, I just kind of want to say that I'm on Azure.com, which is where Sentinel lives. And Azure has an analytical plane that we build dashboards for Sentinel. So you think about, I want my security data here, and we can build dashboards per role. So if you're a SOC analyst, we can build it for a SOC analyst, all the way to the CISO, all the way to the CEO. And as a security professional, your IT group, which you may be a part of, wants to have single dashboards. So the Azure Analytics plane allows you to have security data, as well as maybe you're dealing with, maybe you have New Relic or some uptime data, or some SLA or QoS that you're worried about. You could build dashboards with both security and typical IT network performance data, all in one view. That's the power of the Azure Analytical plane. It's not, you don't have to swivel chair between each vendor and think about your dashboarding experience. Reporting can be centralized, so hugely powerful. And we have dashboards out of the box that we provide, and we can also customize them for you. Now we're going to jump into Sentinel, and we're inside a testing workspace right now. And it's the typical, at the beginning, it's the typical SIEM experience. How many events are we seeing? How many alerts do we see over time? But I'll start off by saying, before we see any of this, we have to get logging data. Okay, so how do we get data into the platform? Well, Microsoft's done a great job, and they definitely have a lot of market power. And so they have a lot of people that are writing connectors for their Sentinel platform. So out of the box, you have all sorts of vendors that are writing connectors, whether it's even AWS, of course, the Azure stack, AKS for Kubernetes, Barracuda. So you have vendors like Cisco and CyberArk and F5 and all the typical vendors out there. And then if a vendor is not in the supported vendor list, we support security event files, so Ceph files, and syslogs. So there's really nothing that we can't capture from a data perspective to get the cybersecurity view. And even if it's old systems like AS400, Quantum Security has data connector experts that we have a parser that can translate things into syslog. So really, there's nothing that could not be injected to drive value in Sentinel to be able to monitor something. Nothing's custom enough for us not to be able to do a data connector. And so once you get the data connector in, it's super easy. Then you can start managing things around it. And more connectors are continuously coming out. And I will say that Microsoft has a lot of advantages within the ecosystem, that if you're using certain parts of their stack, then you're not getting double charged for data because you're already paying for that data in the other part of the ecosystem. So Sentinel is integrated with Microsoft, and they kind of have an ecosystem data management pricing construct, which is something to consider. Okay, so now we have all this data in. The next thing a security professional does is I've got to do threat hunting. So I have to write queries that look for things, scenarios that give me concern. And out of the box, Microsoft comes with almost 500 queries. This is the same MITRE kill chain that I was showing you earlier. Out of the box, they come with almost 500, and they're continuing to write more queries. And out of the box, Quantum has over 10,000, right? Over 12,000 actually. And so what we do is we filter down the queries that make sense for your environment, whether Windows, Linux, what kind of apps you're running, maybe you're running Oracle or SAP or SharePoint or whatever. And we filter those queries down. And customers typically use about 35% of our queries that are relevant to them or to Microsoft. So if you have 450 queries on a Microsoft, you'll probably wind up using 100, right, or 120. And here you'll be using quite a bit more with our query stack. And again, all of our rules are 100% visible to you. You see what all of our queries are. And the rules that we bring into your platform are yours forever, right? If you no longer have quantum security as a vendor, then you don't get our rules updates, but you get to keep all of our existing rules that we brought into your platform. So this is the kind of mentality that I want you to have as a cybersecurity professional, is ownership. How do I own my log data? How do I own my rules? How do I own my playbooks and automation? How do I own this? I'm tired of sending my data to vendors and having a black box for my SIEM platform and my SOAR platform. I want to own this. Whether I manage it or I outsource the management, so be it, but I want to own it long term. And that's the core. It's a very unique differentiator that I think the cloud offers. This is the same thing. History repeats itself. The hosting industry was the same way. You used to send your application. You wasn't responsible for the operating system. You weren't responsible for the network stack or nothing. And the hosting provider is. And so when you had to move your app from one hosting provider to the next, all that had to get recreated. And now you own your Azure cloud environment. You own your AWS cloud environment. And the security stack is the next evolution of your ownership. And so it's just something I wanted to make sure that you have in the forefront of your mind, is that sense of ownership and finding a partner that works with you, that doesn't lock you into their rules or playbooks or whatever. So again, if this is where we write all of our threat hunting rules. You can see the tactics that these are associated to. And then once we have the threat hunting rules, how do we think about when those rules hit? So assigning severity to it, figuring out if they're enabled or disabled. What's our rule type? Or is it something that's scheduled? Or are we tied into Fusion? Like what's the way in which we're going to think about how often we're going to do these rules? By the way, Microsoft does not charge you for queries and that compute power. They only charge you for the data. And so if you were running Splunk or QRadar or some other SIEM in the past, which I've run both of them, spent millions of dollars on both of them a year, I had to actually limit my analysts on the amount of data from a date range perspective that they write for, and the depth of the rules, or maybe even how generic of a rule that they write, because I had analysts that were crashing my server farms because it was just hitting too much data, not enough processing power or memory, and it would just crash. And nothing makes you more frustrated than telling your security analysts to limit their queries. And with Sentinel being a cloud solution, it's limitless. Microsoft's worried about that scale, and they've got that under control, and you're not being charged for those queries. So you can just run them as much as you want, as aggressive as you want. So as a security practitioner, quantum security takes advantage of that model. We run the hell out of these rules a lot of times per day, okay? And so this is where you manage severity. We're able to adjust the severity. You may have a bit different need than what is our default, so no problem. Once a rule hits, now we get an incident. And this is where the SIEM portion basically ends. So SIEM is all about data connectors, getting data into the platform, writing rules, and then prioritizing those rules off severity, and then creating incidents. That's the life of a SIEM, okay? And that's been around for 10 plus years. And now that you have these incidents, what do you do, right? And so we can go into an incident and fully manage this, dig in more on this incident. Let me jump into another incident real quick. Here's an AWS credential hijacking. I can see that 2 entities are affected by this incident. I can investigate this incident. Sentinel does a nice visual aspect here. I want to see how big this incident is, right? Are there any related alerts here? If I click on this, I see 90 related alerts. If I click on this, I go right into the logging platform. So I see what rule hit the query language this rule hit, I can continue to start filtering down and adding more on the query. I could see the exact log information that was hit on this. I could see all the different log details here. And as a security practitioner, I could also go into all my connectors and I can start cross-correlating stuff. So if I'm using Qualys or if I'm using Armor or these kinds of things, I can drag and drop and then do subqueries with related parts of the stack. Whether I'm thinking, hey, I use Okta, let me figure out if this rule, if this IP address is also hitting Okta, or if it's hitting my Cloudflare CDN, right? I can really do some correlation across my entire stack. Super easy. So this is where a security analyst lives. This is what a SOC person does. And if you have this stack in your ownership, you get all the visibility on the things that we're doing on your behalf, the full management lifecycle of this, right? Where right now, most security providers, it's a black box. You're getting a service ticket and you don't see all this information, or you can't be self-empowered and kind of dig in on your own. And so now we're flipping to SOAR. So we talked about SIM, and now we're going to SOAR. We have an incident. What do we do about it? And we all know that cybersecurity professionals are getting more and more expensive and harder to hire. And so we are basically automating as much noise as we can. So automating out common things like if we find in threat intelligence that a certain user of ours email address is in some hacked email list with some sort of password, whether it's fraudulent or not, we see that in threat intelligence, and then we can automatically tie into your SSO or Active Directory, and we can reset the password. If we think there's a data leak on the data protection service, it breaks policy, DLP catches something, we can isolate the machine all through automation. And that's really where the future is. And that's what I'm describing is the SOAR component, the security orchestrated automated response component. So you have SIM and SOAR. And again, Sentinel is the combination of both. And so if I kind of walk through, here's some of our playbooks. And again, these playbooks will be created for you. You can create your own. But everything that we do for you is your property, whether you keep us or not as a partner. So there's all sorts, I don't want to go into details about the playbooks, but I think this screen kind of represents the power of it. So typically, this is what you get is you may get context on the incident from the source side, and then it goes and creates a ticket. And we, of course, will still do that. We'll create a service desk ticket in your ticket system and in ours and sync those because ticket tracking is really important for audit and all sorts of stuff. But this next branch is where it gets powerful. This is where we're parsing the JSON information of all of this, or we're making a decision. If we see an incident and it's got this kind of preview, it has this kind of severity, we're willing to take action, right? And so one piece of action could be isolating the machine from the network, right? So how do we do that? And again, you can see all of our code that we do here. And not just isolating the machine from the network, but we want to restrict them from opening up any additional application, PuTTY or you name it, right? So where they can't load another application on that machine. So those are the things that the source side does really well, fully through automation. And if you're not comfortable doing that right now, what we wind up seeing is we create this playbook, and we have these activities on a run button, right? And so while you may not be comfortable automating the idea of disabling a NIC from a server, when you tell us, so if we identify an incident and we give you a traditional phone call and a service desk ticket and say, we've got an incident we're really worried about, are we allowed to do this? Because we recommend it. And if you say yes, it's as fast as us pushing a button, or you could push the button yourself, right? Within Sentinel, we'll build the playbook for you. Over time, the idea is for those to be real, no false positives, real incidents, and for you to get the trust in our ability to identify a contextual incident where you say, hey, quantum security, stop calling me. Push the button automatically. right? And still create the service desk ticket and give you awareness of whatnot. But that's where you want to head. And through automation, you can get your IT department, your software developers, your CISO trusting the change management process. Because right now, most of security responses are human, and cybersecurity professionals do not own the SLA. They do not own the uptime. IT department or the software development DevOps team kind of owns that uptime. And we are constantly just flagging problems. And then IT and DevOps is maybe figuring out, okay, I've got to have this like maintenance window. I've got to fix this problem in a maintenance window. And so, but with automation, code really doesn't make mistakes when it's trusted. And so the idea of that SOAR to automate all this noise out is just a mind-blowing change in the cybersecurity space. And 100% transparency to you, it's a requirement in the future because cybersecurity professionals, again, are getting harder to hire, more expensive. And so you have no choice but to figure out how to automate, or you're just going to be behind the curve. You're going to get more incidents than you can manage down manually. So the world's changing. I can go into crazy detail on Sentinel, but hopefully that provides you kind of a nice view on some of the main components. There are threat intelligence lists that are out there that you can subscribe to built in. So there's things that we can do like looking at third-party feeds and saying, hey, are these bad known IP addresses hitting my network? You have full user management across Sentinel. Pricing is super transparent. I couldn't say enough about the platform. We offer services around Sentinel. So if you're to go to capabilities and go XDR and SOC, you can learn about our services. We're fully public on our pricing. So if I jump down to pricing, we're fully public on it. This is in US dollars, where you can see that these are the things that you get for this price. And we'll talk about the gigabytes in a second. And you can scale up to more customization across the stack. Our pricing does not include Sentinel. It's our rules, it's our services, it's our 24/7 SOC, it's our automation, it's those kinds of things that are included. Because again, we want you to own Sentinel, flat out. We think that's the right model. And we have a pricing calculator for that extra level of transparency where you just simply add what's your monthly SIM volume, and you can see the price adjust in real time. Hopefully that quick background on Sentinel was helpful. But more importantly, I think if there's anything for you to take away today, it's to really understand and embrace the MITRE ATT&CK framework, because when you do, Sentinel's value will explode in value, because it will help you realize that what you can detect and what you can protect against, and give you better comfort versus just the buy as much as my stuff as I can and hope it works. So I'll stop there and pause to see if we have any questions, or Sham, any comments on things that I haven't covered that I should.
I think it was an excellent presentation. Yeah. I will wait to see if there are any questions. Otherwise, so I'll invite the guests to sort of type in their questions if they have any. But Chris, I think one question, because many of our participants come from different levels in the security industry and security space, and one of the questions I was trying to think of that would be there bothering them would be that if they wanted to start using Sentinel and Quantum, how can Quantum help them to make a beginning so that they can actually try it out and then they basically get an experience, and then they are in a position to scale it up very quickly, actually?
Yeah, so you're probably, just to be clear, you can start using Sentinel today. You go into your Azure account and you just type in Sentinel, and it's built in right into Azure, right? You can create a workspace, which is what they call it, and then you can create a workspace. You can go right to data connectors, and you can knock yourself out and start importing data. And that's a lot of companies do that. And if you have already done that, we certainly would appreciate the opportunity to kind of look at what you've done, and we can jump on the phone with you, review your Sentinel environment, and really help you drive value to that. Also, understand your different deployment models. If you're managing more than one Sentinel environment, we would highly encourage you to use our GitHub model, because we're already building the best practices on how to build in and how to deploy Sentinel properly, so you don't have to manually do it. And again, this code is free for all customers. And so yeah, let us look at your current Sentinel environment and give you a perspective on it. We can do a cursory review of your Sentinel environment for no charge, or we can do a deeper one with professional services and get to work. But at the end of the day, we'd love to chat with you about what your security strategy is and making sure you're aligned with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, because we are a provider that does not resell any technologies. We don't sell Palo Alto. We don't sell CrowdStrike. We don't even sell Microsoft. We are a partner for you, and we really want to make sure first you have the right strategy. So reach out and we can help.
I think that's a good start, actually. I'm assuming that Quantum can also help people to build a case in case they want to propose the Azure Sentinel or to either their company or to any of their customers, correct?
Yeah, and I would say that I'm assuming if you're on this call, you're probably already part of the Microsoft ecosystem. And if you are, and if you have like E5 licensing or whatnot, there are, in my view, no-brainers as it relates to thinking about using Microsoft as your security stack if you're already part of the ecosystem. Again, all the connectors across Azure, all the Microsoft things that you may be using are all natively connected. You have the Microsoft advantages on some of the data models of some of the pricing efficiencies that they have. And more importantly, as an operator, we can do things through automation right with the Defender ATP platform. So all of this isolating machines and turning off NIC cards and restricting access to applications and all that kind of stuff is all Microsoft enabled. So with third-party vendors like Symantec or whatever, pick your endpoint, Trend Micro or whatever, they have the ability to capture data. Those third-party vendors give you the ability to capture data into your SIEM or anybody's SIEM, but they don't expose the ability to do automation. And so you're kind of limited to just being an alerting company versus a responding company. And it really is not just about alerts, but it's about response. And so if your business is already bought in on the Microsoft ecosystem, then the advantages are pretty high to buy in on the Microsoft security platforms. And I say that with 100% abstraction because we don't resell Microsoft. So that's an unbiased suggestion.
I think that's a great insight. And so if there are no more questions, I think we can give back a few minutes to the audience and we can close our call today.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. And reach out if you have any questions. And good luck with your Sentinel cybersecurity journey.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.